Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to the broadcast for the new vodcasting of the Geta Global Initiative. Should I say Geta Global Initiative? I guess I could. It's the Gambling Esports Technology Association. And simply, there's just not enough innovation going on in the gambling industry. So we're started this organization to bring more people into the fold and try to get more ideas moving forward, more people thinking outside the box, and trying to get people actively engaged and actively in a place of moving forward. What does that mean? Well, I mean, what it means simply is that we have casinos that exist now, both online. This is for the iGaming world as well as for the brick and mortar that simply don't have offerings. We're getting close. Some games are coming out, certain crash games that are interesting that are coming out, but I think there's the offerings on the entertainment side of things that just are not there yet, and and I think we're in deep need of more entertainment that is structured around um, a younger audience and stuff like that. And one of my guests coming up later today is Tony Ayaz. He is from Scuba.io. Scuba would fall along that area that Geta has developed in regards to technology innovation and how to implement that technology innovation. And so he should be joining us shortly, but just curious as to um, the industry out there, the gambling industry, the video game industry. Um, you know, your thoughts, and we'll post this on LinkedIn so you can give me your thoughts after you've seen this video on whether or not you feel that the casino industry, the gambling industry, iGaming, or gaming industry is innovative enough, both on its back-end infrastructure and its front-end infrastructure, on its offerings to a younger audience, and its it's how it's dealing with back-end solutions. And what I mean by that, so artificial intelligence, blockchain implementation on the back end, and then on the front end, uh, the the offering of the actual entertainment to younger audiences. So soon we're gonna have Tony come on, but a word from our sponsor first, and or one of our sponsors, past sponsor. Oh, here's Tony. He just came on. We'll hold that off. Hello, Tony. How are you?
Hey, good. How you doing?
Good, great. I was just speaking to our audience. We're live out there, and just speaking to our audience. This will be posted on our LinkedIn page, etc. But we wanted to. I was talking about entertainment and technology and how Scuba plays into it. But I'd like you, if you possible, if you could just do a quick intro as to your name, who you are, how you got started, all of that stuff.
Yes, and we're live currently right now, correct?
Yeah, there's probably a couple watchers, but nothing major. We're gonna repost this later, and we'll get more people to watch it later. But it is being streamed live on YouTube on our channel. But I'm sure we're not getting that many hits at this moment because people are probably working.
Okay, all right.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. So I'm sorry for running late for a couple of minutes. I didn't send my information. Sorry, the setup here on the camera for background here. But
No, don't worry about it. It's perfectly fine. I do these all the time.
Okay, all right. So my name is Tony Ayaz. I'm the CEO at Scuba Analytics, and what we're focused on is providing real-time data intelligence, and specifically, we work with a lot of media and entertainment and sports and the sports betting industry as well because we see a huge potential gap in the market as it relates to personalization and how you can get leverage real-time data in the context of personalization with your customers, and then also making that much more easier to derive things such as cross-media or cross-omnichannel measurement as well.
Cool, very cool. So, so tell me, you what maybe a little bit about your background. So what is Scuba? So you told us a little bit about like what Scuba is and why it is important. I don't know, like how soon or how recently have you gotten into the gambling or gaming industry, and why is Scuba important in this industry?
We actually got into this industry late last year in the context of talking to customers where the sports betting industry, I think, when talking and being at the conferences, is around the privacy is a huge factor. The ability to get data and make quick decisions is a factor. And so for us, though, that's what the platform is really built for. And we've done this for a lot of other large enterprise customers, such as Warner, Comcast, and lots of gaming companies out there. But in particular, with sports betting industry, as you probably know better than me, it's continuing to grow. We all know that it's in its earlier stages. And part of that challenge and opportunity at the same time is to actually get data right? How can you actually use a modern approach to understanding the streaming event data that's driving millions, if not billions of dollars of decision making within seconds? And I think that layering that upon privacy as a core concern for a lot of folks out there, whether it's personal identifiable information, how do you protect that in an automated way? That's a critical factor and top of mind for a lot of clients. And we have a solution around that as well, which allows organizations to derive the analytical insights while protecting personal information as well, especially when you're talking in the context of international data transfers or some of the changes that may happen from state to state with various different regulations like CCPA as well.
Right. So you said your current customers are Warner. So we don't really get, and you just entered in the gaming space last year. And then you mentioned sports wagering. I can tell you just a synopsis, and maybe you fill in why this would be important. For example, in Europe currently, they have what they have responsible gaming. So there is an issue, and you may be also aware of this, that the state will jump in and say, okay, well, you've had enough gambling. You can't gamble or wager on this sports app until next month. And there's a big problem now with certain brands to try to retain that customer. How would your data and your system be able to continue that retention?
So explain that to me again one more time. I want to make sure I answer that correctly.
So in Europe currently, there's something called responsible gaming, and that's happening here in the United States, which protects the consumer from wagering and betting too much on a sports app, for example. Now, there's many sports apps out there, and this could also go along with the iGaming or online casino situation. So with Scuba doing these data analytics, what I'm trying to find out is if this customer is now limited. In other words, the state stepped in to protect the consumer and say, okay, you can't gamble anymore. You have to take a break and wait till next month, and then you can start gambling again. The app itself, meaning it could be anybody, any online casino or any sports wagering casino, the app itself needs to retain that customer so they don't go somewhere else. How could Scuba help in that instance in regards to retention of that consumer?
Got it. So there's two parts. It goes back to personalization, right? In terms of understanding the behavior of that particular user and how they're interacting with your application. It's all about connecting and layering that based on their interaction. So for example, I'm going to give you an opposite example. I'll come back to your question in a minute. But the way that we can actually personalize this information is, let's say at a gaming level, it can actually make real-time predictive insights of where somebody should place their ads. Maybe they have specific prop data that a lot of sports betting applications provide data. Like here's this prop data for XYZ shooting score, or maybe this particular stat. Well, today that information is provided by these various apps, but the ability to actually personalize that and bring that information together to make a machine learning driven recommendation or predictive insight to that user is really critical, because they may come in at one point and then they might come in at a different point. You want to make sure that that information is easy. Now, taking that one step deeper, let's say that particular user has been flagged, depending, again, not sure of like the regulations and where that all stands exactly, but that particular user, you can actually tag them to say, hey, this person is not allowed to use it, but now you can retarget and run different campaigns for them for other informative stuff to keep them engaged, right? So in other words, classify them as a different ID, but then still use that same user profile to bring in other data from other silos or across different channels to actually engage them better. And what Scuba is really good at is that we take streaming data without the need to develop a schema or do a lot of data prepping to ingest that data. But the other part of that connects with it is a user ID. That user ID is provided by the client. So based on the client specification of how that user is, you can actually change that around and kind of give them different tags, if you will, for lack of a better way to describe that, in terms of what that user needs to be. The other thing you can also do is block them, or actually I should say you can't block them, but you can also drive their behavior towards other promotions that you can measure as well.
Well, that's the perfect answer. I think that that sets it up as a very valuable source for a lot of these online casinos, etc. And I think in a lot of ways, I think you have a story there where, for example, I mean, is it so? Tell me a little more, because I think I know about the the situation with the creators of Scuba. Maybe give me a little insight as to the engineers that built it and where it was applicable. I mean, I heard things like, well, if I was a Facebook user and I was interested in this or that or the other thing, it would start popping up ads for me that I was interested in. Is that similar to what you're talking about? Just to get it clear for laymen out there.
Yeah, so where the Scuba technology was born out of, if you Google Scuba and Facebook or Meta, you'll see a lot of information written about there where more than probably 50% of the engineers of Facebook still use their version of it. Of course, we spun away and created Scuba as an independent company. With that said, it was designed at day one to scale to 1 billion users. I'm sure you guys saw the movie and how that works, but it was designed to support billions of active users, and it was designed to provide real-time behavioral insights across customers. So this is where the product was born out of. And I like the conversation one of our customers recently said, is like, oh, well, you guys actually enable everybody in the industry to be like a FANG company. If you're not familiar with FANG, but Facebook, Alphabet, Netflix, right? Google, kind of, you want to be that level of capability. Why are these guys so successful? It's they have millions of active users and subscribers on their platform. Right. And the way they run their businesses, they need to get this real-time insights from their customers and understand every interaction, every touch point, and also understand that from a retention perspective. You can't do that with legacy platforms that are built really not for streaming data. They're built for data, and that's where the gap is that we see with a lot of existing solutions, especially in the gaming industry, so new. And that's why, to my point earlier around, you have an opportunity to get it right from a data perspective, is that putting your data into a data lake or putting it into a data warehouse, just note they were not built to take in streaming event data. What they were built was data that doesn't change too much, transaction data, customer information, things that are static and very important that you still need. Not saying you don't need those solutions, but when it comes to streaming event data, if you're processing the data, your teams are spending hours, days, or weeks, or months in some cases, I've heard, prepping and analyzing data, then to feed it to your various business teams, then to start making those business decisions. And simply, like, streaming data wasn't invented for that, right? It's about how fast can you ingest and how fast can you make the decisions. And that's what makes Scuba really powerful, because it's solely built for the streaming event data.
It's interesting because I've been involved in the gaming or gambling industry over 20 years. And then I was involved in video gaming for about 10 years and with doing the events, etc. And from your perspective, you're coming from the tech side of things. And in your opinion, I would say, what would determine having quote unquote good technology in your world for how would that good technology help the gambling industry? Now, you got involved in the gambling industry about a year and a half ago. I think you've seen things and heard of things that are missing. And what do you think would help the gambling industry? Like, I read all the time the gambling industry is doing fine, no need to change anything. Why do they need the technology then now, as opposed to not needing it, you know, 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, well, I'll give an example. We're both at the SBC conference a little bit ago, a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and I believe the Fanatics CEO was on the fireside chat, and one of the challenges they mentioned was, how can we get to better personalization? What if I think the person that's asking questions ask if I'm into cycling? Why can't the system figure out that I'm into cycling and give me insights very fast? And I think the words he used, and I'm paraphrasing here, is that, well, it's because we're using 20-year-old technology. And that's what I think is an example of what he's referring to, is because when you're using this technology today, it was literally built 20 years ago. And a lot of these gaming platforms have been post 2010, right? Mm-hmm. And some maybe even post 2015, where they went to massive scale. And now we're in 2023. So everyone has built these systems at a massive scale to run in the cloud. Now you got machine learning, which if you're using machine learning, and I'm sure everybody's been hearing a lot about generative AI and it's becoming buzz. Well, guess what? None of that stuff will work if you don't have real-time data. If you're trying to build machine learning data and insights and you're waiting a day, that's too late. You lost so much money as well as potential retention risk. You need to feed your machine learning algorithms real-time data without a middleman in between. That's the best way that I can describe it if you're going to be competitive. And this is where I think the sports betting industry can be ahead of many other industries, because they've invested, they're in deep, right? And maybe I'm just making a bet here, but maybe you're halfway in, or you're starting to think about how am I going to scale up better. And technology changes, at least in Silicon Valley, as they say, right? Every 10 years, there's faster, cheaper, better ways to do things. And we're getting into Web 3.0. And that's all about privacy. It's all about real time. It's all about personalization. And I think if you just take that playbook from a sports betting industry perspective and apply that and leverage technologies that can make real time a reality, which I also know is a buzzword that everybody says it's real time, but then there's got to really dig down on what that meaning. Does real time mean today? Does that mean yesterday? Does that mean 3 weeks? It should mean within seconds or milliseconds. That's what it should mean from the point of ingest to actually analysis.
So one of my next questions is why does, I'm going to get to this because we're going to come back to that, but why does it seem that many businesses and industries are lacking in this area? And is it expensive? I mean, because I think that's where it would come down to, like the heads at the top would wonder, well, how much is this going to cost me?
Actually, it's cheaper. Okay, it's cheaper to go with modern technology. It's more expensive to keep the way you have. Number one, it requires a lot more computing services, meaning your cloud bill is going to go up. Number two, each step of the way where you have to do these complex integrations to get data in, to massaging the data, to getting the business intelligence out of it, requires layers of full-time employees and or consultants that you need to actually put in place. Then you need experts that can actually run complex queries that only super technical people can do to provide the business the feeds that it needs. And so when you compound all of that, and then including multiple tools that you have to use to integrate together, it's very expensive. And whereas if you use a purpose-built solution like Scuba, which is designed to take that, it dramatically reduces those costs. However, right, one could make the argument, well, it will be expensive for me to go away from what I'm using now and then bring a solution like this. And that's true, but then there's an economies of scale. Are you going to lose customers with that risk? Are you going to have risk that you're going to have the other competitors use a lightweight, more simple technologies and then get blown in the dust because you didn't want to adapt to change? So a lot of this has to do with more of education when we talk to clients. They don't believe us about what we're talking about. And for us, we love that comment. So for us, it's like, put us in action and then start your clock and see how long it takes us in terms of how we interpret and give you actionable information for personalization, to activate, to measure, however you want to do it, versus any best next tool that you have in your environment. And that's the best way that we can prove our capabilities.
Right. So what if I was an iGaming platform or a sports wagering platform, or I was an actual brick and mortar casino and I wanted to integrate Scuba, and you came to me and you saw that my whole back end was what you said, 20 years of age, like it was old. What would you recommend? Would you be able to run Scuba without having that back infrastructure?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to clarify something. They're not that if they're a 20-year-old organization, then it might be a 20-year-old organization and they have to adapt. But I'm saying they're using technology that were built 20 years ago, right? So these things are not as modern. Now, how would it go about? We actually can start in a very lightweight manner to prove to a lot of our customers where they're tired of paying maybe six-figure license deals to a lot of different organizations. What we provide is a free version that customers can take it for a full drive, or we'll set them up for a pilot so they can actually see value in it. And for us to get started, we're talking within, assuming you got all the commercials out of the way, you're talking within a day to 2 days of actually seeing real insights with our solution.
That's pretty quick. And this comes back to my last, we were talking about this a little bit before. Now you said it would increase profits. And generally, what about the customer? You feel that customer would be happier, more satisfied by integrating real live data with Scuba? Just tell me what the customer would experience from that side.
Yeah, I think that we've all experienced this. And I was talking to a recent customer, and they were missing simple alerts that were going off because people forgot their login. And we've all seen this millions of times, and you get frustrated, you fix your login, you go back in, and your login's still not working. Now, this may be a little bit extreme, but they calculated because this data was buried in some silo and they were not looking at this information. It happened a lot of times, which equaled in a monthly basis for this particular customer, $30 million of potential loss revenue.
Wow.
Right. So think about that. When we say real time, it's not there's different things operationally you have to think about that. And then in sports betting, games are happening in real time, right? There's no going back and replaying it and placing bets from the beginning. So from what a customer wants is I equate it to like a trading platform. I see the way that, the way the operational side of things are, right? You have a lot of games going on. You have a lot of personalization and details of data that needs to get processed and ingested, and then turned into some sort of a business action. So a lot of moving parts. And if you looked at the guys that are traders out there or these trading platforms, if they had to sit around and fumble for more than 2 seconds, they just lost a boatload of money.
That's right.
Right. So that's the same thing in the sports betting industry. So for the experience of the customer that you want to keep them, especially how competitive it's becoming, you need to serve up the right ads. You need to measure the ads. You need to build the right feature in your product. Then you actually need to see if anybody ever clicked on it or how did they click on it. You need to understand the user interaction. Then you need to understand what campaign or journey brought them there. And then you need to correlate that against your other promotions and offerings that you're doing across the other silos. Back to your question before, because we're a seasonality with sports, right? Maybe they might be interested in one sport and then kind of drop off. Well, how can you quickly, when you know that drop off is coming up, how can you re-engage them? Or when they're doing a winning, and one of our gaming customers that we have out there, when they're winning, you want them to stay engaged. What additional things can you actually provide them to incent them to stay, to make them stay, versus doing the post-game analysis after the fact of how you can keep the client? So those are just some examples of how it impact a user, because today we're all in a real-time economy, right? We can do crypto on our phones, we can make trades, we can do a bunch of different things. So I think when you're looking at a digital native using a sports betting app, right, they have certain expectations of how flawless that application should be. We're not comparing this to an application where maybe it's, I don't know, I'm going to use a Home Depot app, not to disparage Home Depot, but it's different context, right? Maybe they might have a little bit of patience of what they're looking for. But when I'm trying to do a bet and I'm looking at information, that experience better be flawless and give me the right information that I need. And on the back end, again, to the customer, it should be driven, and those insights should be made available to marketing, product teams in a simultaneous way to understand how they can become competitive.
That's right. I right with you there, and I 100% agree. My last question, and then we're going to get to like how people can engage with Scuba. But my last question is, why do you think that the general public is so slow to embrace these advancements in building the technological, with the technological infrastructure, and then utilizing, types of integrations like Scuba.io? And the last thing, and part of that question is, what about the hype in regards to the fear of AI? I know that we've heard this. I'm not afraid of it. Obviously, I've already embraced it, but there seems to be some a little bit trepidation and fear. I'm talking about it on a macro level in regards to embracing more technology and artificial intelligence, etc.
Yeah, so in terms of just the first question, it took us 5+ years to build this product to scale the way it is. Doing something like this, you can't develop this overnight. And I also hear some mistakes that customers make when we talk to them is, well, we're building our own. Well, are you building a platform that's going to have hundreds of millions of people using the platform, or are you going to maintain and build a system as well? That's the first challenge that I think people have to start thinking around. How am I going to get a scalable solution and let them do what they do best? Because we spent a lot of time building this solution to scale at massive levels. So that's why it's making its way back to the question of like, what can change in the market? How can you adopt new technologies? We're trying to get out there with our solution out there. We believe we're unique from a platform to platform. There is not a solution like ours of having one full stack solution with analytics capabilities built in as well, and running in the customer's environment. This is an important notion as well. We protect the customer's data by being behind their firewall. Nothing leaves that customer. So it's about us as getting the word out, and also it's time to really evaluate, especially with ML and AI coming up. Real time is a component of it. Going to your second question around the impact of AI, and is it good, is it bad? I'm not sure, whether it's good or bad from my statement. I think anything can be bad and anything can be good for you. It depends on how you use it. So to label it in one bucket or another is misleading, in my opinion. But what I can say is that if you have data accuracy and you have real-time information to support your decisions, and you incorporate privacy by design as a part of the solution that you're actually delivering out to your customers, then I think we're in the step in the right direction to control things. And I think with any new technology, there's always fear of a lot of things, and one of them being, is it going to displace jobs? And I think one could argue that I think I heard that similar argument back during the internet days of 1999 or com days. And here we are today. And even if you look at the economy, it's not doing well. But if you really look at the strength of like technology and how much that's impacting the overall economy today, it's helping, it's not hurting. So the same thing with AI, it's going to drive and transform a lot of different industries, and it might even negatively impact some industries. But at the end of the day, there's going to be new things built on top of it, right? We just advance and go forward, not necessarily go backward. So I think it depends on your perspective.
Well, that's a perfect answer. I definitely agree with you 100%. I mean, that's why we started the global, the Gambling Esports and Technology Association. I wanted to thank you, Tony. Where can our audience find or inquire about working with Scuba?
Yeah, please go to scuba.io and engage with us there. We're a global company, so we're in the East Coast, West Coast, and Europe as well, and love to hear from you.
Well, Tony, thank you so much for the time. I know you're really busy and CEO, and I know I wish you guys all the luck. I hope that this is a massive integration and your system is being utilized across all, not just sports wagering, but iGaming and also the brick and mortar casinos. Everybody needs your system. Anyone that has any questions after, if you've watched this and you have comments on LinkedIn or etc., wherever this has been posted, you can reach me and I could put you in touch with Tony, or as he said, just go to scuba.io and integrate right there. Thank you so much for the time, Tony. I hope to see you guys in Atlantic City, hopefully, or maybe in Palm Springs next year at the Casino Esport Conference.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have a good one. Take care. Well, that was Tony Ayaz, from the CEO from the scuba.io, and it is a real-time streaming data platform. We look forward to having future guests on our call. We will be talking to a Mr. Dion, who is with a YND marketing. They are a very real-time, interesting new way of marketing out there on TikTok, and content creators that could and should have a big impact in this industry. Until next time, have a great day and an excellent week. Take care.